Okay, why don't we go ahead and start? And I'm recording this meeting, so maybe we could, if for some reason some folks don't make it, we could share that with them. But we'll try it that way, and we'll just get started. So looks like everybody's muted. That's great because that'll probably keep us from having any echo problems. But of course, just jump in whenever you need to stop, and we'll just kind of tackle questions along the way. So we just wanted to pull everybody together just to kind of talk about some common ground, just some consistent procedures for count. And I'm sharing the notes that I had mentioned, or the agenda rather, that I sent out to you. I just thought we kind of work from this. And the packet that went out to everybody last week just kind of outlines the reports that we need to run to get through the count process. So we just kind of run through those. Those are all detailed pretty well in the packet as far as the state-weighted count, the 94-142 count, which is going to be our support services, the private school report for when needed, depending on the region that may have private schools, the ward of the state, kind of our 9888 kids, and then our tuition in and tuition out. So really that's the, these are the same reports that we've used in the past. Of course, the biggest issue or the biggest difference is just not having our Fox Pro and producing these through the new Excel procedures. So maybe let's pause there. And I think there's been maybe a couple glitches along the way as far as those that people have been in touch with Joni or Karen about. But maybe let's just pause there for a second and have people had, are there issues out there right now with getting those reports run? And it's very quiet. Is that a good sign?
If you do run into issues, just feel free to call me. We did find that you do need to clear your cache if you're not seeing something that you're seeing on the screenshot that's in the packet. So if you need help clearing your cache, just contact me. But we have found that does work.
Can you hear me? This is Faith. I ran the weighted enrollment report, and just for a couple of my schools as just a little bit of practice. And I noticed just at a quick glance that I had a couple names on there that were duplicated on the weighted enrollment.
There probably are one kids, and I know right now they're working on those.
Okay.
I would just remove them, at least remove one of them if you see a duplicate of them for now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Karen?
Uh-huh.
On the, when I did mine and I was copying them from the whole workbook to the individual sheets, I just read copy them to a separate sheet. I did not put mine on this clipboard. I didn't quite understand this clipboard thing. I just copied mine to a separate, each one to like sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. Can you explain what that clipboard is? Or
page are you on?
I'm on page 3.
Okay. Clipboard.
They're in the middle. I just saved each district to a separate sheet, but I didn't do it with this clipboard. I just didn't know.
Okay, where are you seeing the clipboard at?
Oh, you got it in the middle of the page. It says control paste, and then there's clipboards. Is that?
on page 3. So let's look.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the clipboard icon.
Yes.
Basically with that, I mean, that's just saving you a step. If you copy and paste it over, if you choose put the column widths the same as what was in that original report, it's just saving you steps is all it's doing.
Oh, so instead of having to extend the columns.
Yeah. It'll all, if you select that from the clipboard, once you copy it into the document or into a worksheet, and you select that from the clipboard icon and select the keep column widths, it'll adjust itself to the first sheet.
So where's...
So if you on the first sheet, after you copy and paste it into the first sheet, if you go ahead and resize all the columns,
right?
Correct?
Yep.
Then once you copy it to a new sheet and you select the keeps column widths the same, they'll all adjust to that first sheet. It'll save you time and trying to resize them.
Okay. And that clipboard is in that, then in the first sheet?
No. Once you copy and paste the information into the new sheet,
mm-hmm.
It'll show up either at the top or at the bottom of that copied information.
Okay, that's where I missed it.
Do what?
That's where I missed it. I didn't see the clipboard.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, folks, I'm on now. I got called to an impromptu meeting with my supervisor and some higher ups.
Welcome, Jenny. Yeah, we were just kind of going through. We just kind of opened up for questions on producing reports, and that's kind of where we were. So, okay, so just kind of going back to that agenda I set out. I mean, just kind of reiterating what's in the packet as far as those being the reports that essentially the same reports, same processes as last year, just a different way of producing them, and just really emphasizing we want to make sure we have the reports looking consistent so that our final our final run will be consistent when we get it to the districts, and just consistent when we're working with them. As far as the process that we're using in your packets, again, this is going to look very familiar. Really no changes per se, but on pages 32 and 33, it's just kind of it'd be good for us to walk through, what we want to do when we have the count meetings with superintendents or designees, and of course, as we've done in the past, we're gonna, we want to do a one-by-one walkthrough of students, which is our best chance of possibly catching anything that we need to add or delete and catching any errors. So, with those weighted enrollment reports, we're going through, student by student, kind of our final check to catch things. We do want to use that count work copy. And when Karen had sent out the packet, she also sent an Excel version of that, which is kind of a nice way to do those calculations for districts. It's just simply doing the math. And in a good way for districts, a lot of times they'll want to know at the end of the meeting, what is my additional weighting? And something that's usually helpful to them too is a lot of times they'll ask, how does that compare to last year? So just might be a great idea to kind of have their figures from last year, their additional weighting, because a lot of times they will ask for that, or wondering if they're up and down, those kinds of things. We would, on that work count copy, kind of our procedure is we'd like to have both the superintendent and a regional administrator sign off on that. That's just sort of our agreement that we believe this is the final count, and that could be helpful if down the road, occasionally we have things that come up later where someone from a district felt like we missed something. If we have the superintendent or designee and the regional administrator signing off, that's kind of our agreement that that's what we came to, and that's going to be the final count. And a reminder, sometimes something comes up after the meeting, or we catch one last final thing. Oftentimes what we've done for that is that work copy, we can scan that, send that out. and have someone kind of initial and redate it, just so that, again, we adjust that agreement if need be. And then this is on page 33, just kind of some of our timelines here. We have the folks where we would like these folks to have the completed reports and documentation. November 12th is kind of our date. And we're looking for, IMS Council Group to get together on November 13th to kind of do that finalization process. We'll be doing that in Creston. And then as a backup, if more time is needed, potentially finishing up or on that process on the 16th in Atlantic. And that November 17th is the magic final date, for getting that final count in. I wanted to and I put this question kind of right in the middle of the agenda here. When we've had some of this conversation, or I've had some of this conversation with the regional administrators group, wondering, have you been having any questions or issues or confusion on when we're applying the new weighting matrix and the weighting matrices? We have our early childhood one and our K-12 one. I'll just share one issue that we came up in our neck of the woods here, and this was really just with one district, kind of a misunderstanding that they thought that each and every child would be re-reviewed with a new matrix and potentially changed. But long story short, there's been some discussion across the AAs with the new matrix and the new matrices, and also within our administrative group. And as a rule of thumb, the way we're looking at that is when new IEPs come in, whether they be reviews or amendments, when a new IEP comes in, that's when we'd apply the new matrix. The matrix became, it was introduced July 1. So any IEPs that have come since July 1 through October 30th, we will look at the new matrix, but not going back and saying, hey, if we use a new matrix on this IEP that was written last April, possibly changing that. Has anybody had any districts that have been concerned about that or confused? Just opening it up, wondering. And talking with the regional administrators, it didn't seem like we had too many issues. We did have one little pocket here where we had to do some clarification.
I haven't had anybody make any silly suggestions.
Meaning like just raise everybody up a level or something like that?
Meaning like, let's review them all.
Yeah. And I did. I was, several of the administrative group went to the training on the new matrices this summer, and I wasn't, on a video conference recently, kind of a follow-up with the different AAs. And there have been places across the state where people have thought about things like that. And I've tried to, just kind of explain it to people when it comes up that, the intention of a new matrix wasn't to, there's no new money, there's not a new pot of money out there to give out. But sometimes when they look at it, they can say, gee, I can think of a kid who might bump up a little bit. But anyway, bottom line is new IEP, new matrix is how we'll look at that. So, and I think maybe from what I've seen so far, it almost looks like maybe some of our early childhood kids might be more likely to potentially call some of those kids to go to level 2 to level 3. But, we don't want it to be this blanket where all of a sudden all these kids are bumped up. We'll just kind of review those as their process. So, okay. As far as the other reminders that we kind of have on the agenda there, this is really, really important, really critical. For kids to count, we want to make sure that they have a validated IEP in the system with that October 30th or earlier date. If we don't have that, we would end up having that flagged, and we would need to get that corrected. So, we still, until there's a full retirement of the standalone system, we just need to make sure that what's entered in standalone has already been changed in the web IEP system. And Joni and or Karen, what I'm thinking about this year, I'm thinking about, or maybe worrying a little bit about, there probably are going to be those isolated cases where we probably will find, oops, that teacher has one sitting open there, dated before October 30th. Bottom line, if we have that, we'll just have to tell them to either get it validated, or worst case scenario, possibly move the date. I mean, if the staffing isn't done, if we have something open, it's not validated, they'll either have to finish it, or in a scenario, if it really isn't finished, then they potentially may have to move that date forward beyond October 30th. I was even thinking, I have one situation where there's a little mini controversy, and then a kid that might even go to a second opinion, and of course we have the staffing October 27th or something like that, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, this isn't going to be finished. So that might be one where we might just say, okay, we're going to have to move that date ahead for part 2 of the meeting, so that goes beyond, if that makes sense, because it's going to be one of those staffings where we're probably just stuck, and if we weren't right around count, we'd probably just leave it open, frankly, and finish it. But in this case, just to get it cleaned up, we probably have to move that date ahead and consider that to be like part 2 of staffing. So,
any move-in kids though that move into Iowa or into your districts, even on October 30th, we have to do a move-in IEP. It has to be marked ready to review. It has to be validated, then entered into the standalone. Because this year it hit flags last year, but this year they're really buckling down on that. So if you do have a kiddo that moves in and you go ahead and enter in the standalone, it's going to hit a report, because you've got to have a validated IEP on the system.
Yeah, they will be comparing the 2 systems at the center this year, and I think they're wanting everything to match up exactly so they can drop the standalone. But until that happens, they're not going to let that standalone go. I always run the all IEPs report as we get closer to head count time, so I know what's still out there. So if there's an old IEP hanging around out there that's not been submitted, I get a hold of the teacher and say, what's going on with this? And after head count, when I'm thinking I'm done, if there's still something out there dated by head count date, I'm sorry, if you're not done with it and the meeting's not been held, you need to change the date. So I don't want anybody hanging out there on my list. So I'm always in contact with my teachers that way.
And if the meeting was held and it really is done, and it would just be a matter of going in and finishing the editing, for in some cases it may just be, you may just have to do that in the next day and a half to get that done. But in really weird situations, if it's not done, it may be, in my mind, just moving that date ahead, to indicate kind of a part 2 of staffing. So.
But you do want all of them validated if they're dated before October 30th. So if they haven't held the staffing, then they need to redate.
That's correct.
Okay. I'll tell them.
Okay. Other questions that are out there, or questions or concerns about the process? I mean, our intent was just to kind of make sure we were together and on the same page and tackle any questions that come up.
One thing on the all IEPs report, there might be some IEPs that show up on there that have been deleted, but there is a deleted column, so you can sort those out or filter those out. So
okay.
If they've been deleted, don't worry about it.
Joni, where does that come from?
The all IEPs report
on
the IEP website.
On the web?
On the IEP, on the standalone.
Standalone.
The IEP system, there's reports in the IEP section.
Okay.
You're not talking standalone. You're talking Iowa IDEA.
I'm sorry. Iowa IDEA.
That's what I thought. I hadn't seen it over on the IMS side, so I thought it was
the IEP.
Okay, it's in the website. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And we need to remember too that all IFSPs need to be following the same protocol. They all need to be in and implemented as well.
Is the supervisor for that in your office?
Angie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is she going to send out anything? I just got stuff.
I sent something out to my staff when I sent something out to my teachers. I
Okay,
sent
I just got
something
stuff
out.
from me, but it's not the one that's in my office. It's in another office.
I sent a notice out to my staff, to the staff that serve my schools, my districts.
How I just came to mind here too. Out of state placement kind of situations. Okay. A unnecessarily messy kind of a process, but you know, the way that's operating now, same thing. They have to kind of be in the system, and Joni or Karen can get those in the system as they come up. So, but just
We enter them into IMID.
Right.
They enter theirs in the standalone.
Mhm.
But on that note, I know that Joni and I have spent time talking to Ron about the reevaluation process, and I think he is going to be communicating out to the building reps about that. However, if a kiddo is due for a reeval, we should not be changing that reeval date in the standalone until a reeval is actually done. We have to make sure that there is as accurate information in those systems as possible. And if we go ahead and change the reeval date, even though there's not been one done, we could really get into trouble for that. So we want to make sure that it's as accurate as possible. So if you find that you need a reeval, hopefully Ron will be communicating that out here shortly, and we can get that cleared up and fixed.
And exit information as well.
Yep, actually, with what we found, and we have sent this on, just so you know, we've sent this on to the programmers, because when you have a child that exits from Iowa IEP as a graduation exit, they're required to have a post-secondary or a SAR done. And what we're finding is when we have kids that graduate that are from out of state, obviously those documents aren't being done, but in the state of Iowa, it's still a requirement. So we have sent that on to the procedures committee to find out how we are supposed to handle those. So hopefully we'll be getting that information to you guys, hopefully before the end of the year.
Okay. Since I have a lot of out of states, it's going to be okay then if the 3-year reeval date does not match or come anywhere close to what the IEP dates are.
It's going to have to, because we shouldn't be interchanging that reeval date if we don't have reeval paperwork. Hopefully down the road we'll have a procedure and we'll get something done so that we can open it up to the building rep to do the reeval when we know it. For right now, if you know that there's a reeval that's significantly overdue, just go ahead and drop Joni and I an email, and we'll work through that process as we figure out what's going to happen.
Okay, and I did go in and type the stuff into the SAR for the graduate that I had on the out of state.
Who did the SAR for you?
The teacher.
Oh, okay.
I just made it up.
well, and you were creative. No,
I was very creative.
So,
Never seen the kid in my life. Just made it up.
Well, if we know who the teacher is, we can open it up so the teacher can look at it and can enter her own information. We just have to know about it.
Yeah,
well, and see right now for this is what it's always been messy, and it's no different now. But for when we have the reevals for out of state students, I mean, it ends up being just kind of producing kind of some paper outside the system. So I mean, I just had a couple a special ed rep working on a couple in Walnut kids that are going out of state, and it's just, just using the 6-question format, and they need to figure out a way to get a prior written notice and an announcement of the reevaluation, consent if they're doing more testing. And yeah, right now it just ends up being this kind of paper file until we get a better structure for doing that. But we do know, it is our obligation, to to establish or maintain eligibility as an Iowa student. We just have to kind of work, frankly, around the system right now to do that. But so it's always kind of messy.
Does that one that I have outstanding, does that need to be done before the 30th?
No, I'm not gonna worry about those right now for this count, but we will get it. We're waiting to see what a procedure is on that before we, I would much rather, I guess, Joni chime in, but I would much rather get accurate information first and then try it versus attempting to come up with all these different policies and we don't really know how the state of Iowa is going to go on it.
Okay.
So
I just know I have one out right now.
yeah, our main goal right now is just to get the kids on the system. We know in this one situation that the out-of-state kids aren't going to necessarily match up with the standalone. And I know the state of Iowa knows that. So it's still a work in progress. So that's what we're attempting to do. So we're aware of those situations. We're just trying to figure out what the best way to do this is. And you know what? I don't want to set up a whole bunch of policy and then find out that it's not a big deal and we're not supposed to do it. So does that make sense?
I wondered if I needed to yell at Joe or not.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
Okay, good.
And I'm just kind of thinking out loud now too here, but if we have cases where there's an overdue IEP,
Most of those we're up to date on those, I think.
okay.
Aren't we, Joni?
I think so.
We'll know more. That's another thing that's on
We'll have to run a report and
So
filter it out and see.
but if there was a validated, slightly overdue IEP, the student wouldn't be withheld from count. I mean, yes, it's an issue, but Faith, we were emailing about that one case, and it was kind of one of those things where, IEP is due the last week of October, where the parents specifically said, we want to do it at conferences next week.
That's not significantly overdue.
Right, and it's not, I mean, so, if there was a compliance review, that might be flagged, but for the purposes of count, it's not going to.
Let's go back to our one famous teacher that you and I had that was 6 months overdue years ago.
Oh, yeah, and that's not a good thing. Don't do that. So
what's considered significant? 6 months or older?
Okay, well, what?
A month?
Do you have some that are?
Well, I know I've got some that were due.
Let's not worry about it right now. Let me go back. I'm comparing both Karen Myers' system and my system just to see where we're at and how close we are to matching. Mm-hmm. And then Joni and I will start contacting people if we need you to contact the school to get stuff.
The truth is, even technically even one day is a non-compliance issue, but then we also a year or two ago in the procedures, it kind of addressed that issue. What if a parent's sick or they're out of town or all these things, and there's also this idea that meaningful parent participation is more important than missing that date by one day. I mean, the district might, in theory, they could get called on it anyway. But, and then we have these extenuating circumstances. We have out of state and trying to get that all figured out. So, okay. Any other thoughts or questions for the good of the cause while we're all together?
Just want to let you guys know that one of the reasons we're planning on 2 days for verifying the count is we need to sort through them, run all those reports and sort through them and set them all up before we go through them too. So it's not just a matter of printing out the reports anymore. So we have to do that. But the good news is I went through rosters this weekend, and the more you do it, the faster it goes. So you'll get faster as you go through it.
And we do realize that the instructions were very detail oriented, and I know some of it seems to be overkill and stuff, and I get that. We just tried to include everything in there so that you could take a report and walk step by step through it. Try to, we just really want to emphasize the consistency of it. If you have problems with a formula, make sure go back and compare your formula that you've got in there to what's written down, because what's written down is what needs to be in there directly. And you want to make sure that your cells that you're looking at are correct in that formula. If you do have any issues with it though, don't hesitate to go ahead and Google Hangout with me, and I will take and you can screen share with me, and then I can actually see what's going on, and I'll be glad to help you in any way.
Some of the issues we came across as we were putting together as Karen was putting together the count packet, was the system was not saving our preferences when we selected items in a report that we wanted to display. And so we relayed that to the programmers, and they made the changes, and then we had to change what we had in our directions, and then the screenshot would change, and then they'd fix things. And so it was quite an ordeal just putting this together. So I hope it's as helpful to you as we want it to be.
I'm just thinking too, even though, making the reports, it seems like more work. What I'm hoping is, at least in the short term, with the reports being accessible to different people, I'm thinking, hoping down the road, this could save you some work, because, if we can have some folks, instead of someone saying, hey, give me a roster, if we can get, more people aware of how to produce their own rosters, or even folks like me or other regional administrators, if I need to look at a certain list, if we can get people to the point of going in and saying, well, I'll go in and make my own list. As people get more comfortable with that. So I'm hoping it'll be a good thing in that sense down the road. So, all right. Other thoughts or other questions? All right. If not, we'll probably call it quits. Appreciate everybody's hard work. I know it's a busy time of the year, and appreciate what you're doing. So everybody have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Ron.
Bye.
Thanks, Ron. Can you stay on for just a second?
You bet.
Okay. I have a question about Ward Estates. Please go ahead and ask him.
Yeah,
Ron,
you bet. Yeah,
I've got 3 kids that are, it's the Hayes girl. You guys had her up there too. Kara Hayes. Her mom is in Colorado. The girl herself is at Waverly Shell Rock. They put her in as a 9888. Now, the other 2 kids, the other kid, there's only one, there's 2 more kids, but one's been out of SPED for last 6 months. But John is he was a Fremont Mills. He lives in Fremont Mills in foster care, and he is attending Alpha, not Alpha, Heartland. So do I make him a 9888?
Where do they know where the mom is in
Colorado?
Huh?
Colorado.
Do they know an address where she's at?
Well, we have a P.O. box.
Okay. If they know where mom is, you cannot do her as a 9888. They have
I didn't. Waverly Shell Rock did.
Then you need to drop an email to that AEA, and if you know where that mom is, they need to code it as Colorado. They cannot code it as a 9888 or a 9889. It needs to, if you know where the mom is, and then we have to code it from that state.
So presumably we know where she is, and she's not lost her
That's correct.
custody.
Well, she was homeless for a while.
Okay.
And I don't know that they know. Yeah. So they need to talk to the DHS worker that changed it. This was Waverly Shell Rock that found this out.
Okay. That found out that
the mom's in Colorado.
Okay.
Because see, John doesn't have any ties to her because he's in foster care and
Okay, so my one question is, have parental rights been terminated?
dad's have, mom hasn't.
Okay, so if mom's hasn't, she cannot be marked as a 9888.
Okay.
So unless
I get to tell Shell Rock that?
yeah, absolutely. I would tell the AEA that covers that, and
Okay.
just drop an email and just say, we have the sibling here. Parental rights have not been terminated.
They even say that in the email.
Do what?
They even say that in the email from Shell Rock that dad's flights were terminated and mom's weren't, and they changed her to a 9888.
I cannot do that. Hang on just a second. I know. Hang on just a second. I want to look at
I'm
something.
just the messenger.
No, it's okay. I have a kid that's in, honestly, the mom's in Wisconsin. They know where the kid is. So I have to bill it as Wisconsin because now if you did not know where she was, you can do the 9889, but otherwise you can't do that.
Well, then that's what I thought when they said she was in Colorado and it's a P.O. box.
Yeah, they hang on. I want to read this one thing that John sent us, and then that'll help maybe provide some clarification. Just a second.
I just wasn't sure what to do about that because it
No,
was
that's
like, I don't think I can change John.
Let me. I wouldn't. I know for sure 9888 is not the appropriate code. So
Okay.
Okay, hang on here. Bear with me a second.
That's okay. And lucky me, Ron, I've got another one that just moved into GRC
Aha.
Okay.
from Davenport, last placed in Kansas.
Okay.
And there's an IEP from Davenport that Davenport never entered. So I did drop them an email and say, could you please enter the IEP that, their special ed director sent to Mark, because Mark brought it down here to the meeting today. And so I'm hoping they will at least enter the one for last year before we write the one for this year. Leave it to Glenwood to get the level 3 kids at the end of the year.
You probably are the winner for getting the very most out-of-state, strange dilemma
We're just lucky.
of different kinds.
All right. So I'm going to I'm going to send this to you, and then we're
Okay.
read through it because this will clarify. I'm going to send it to you too, Ron. But here's one thing it states. It says, for children in foster care facilities or district court placed of 9889 or 9888, children requiring special education who have been separated from their parents are in the care and custody of the Department of Human Services and the parents cannot be located. In that case, the resident district is the state of Iowa and the student would be assigned a recommended program. In that case, for federal count purposes, the student would be included in domicile district and AEA count. So that doesn't work for her because we know where parents are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, go down to the next one, children requiring special ed who have had parental rights terminated. And that's not the case in this one. So they cannot use those two codes.
Okay.
So I would
send
contact, excuse me?
Can I send this on to them?
I would, and I would tell them that it is taken from, hang on here, and I'll tell you what document.
Okay.
That comes from the 2015 Federal Informational Bulletin.
Okay.
So that came from John Lee directly.
Okay. Because I didn't think it sounded right when they said that, especially when they said mom lives in Colorado.
Yeah.
I'm like, and in the very bottom of the email, it said, dad's rights are terminated, mom's aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the ones that I'm like, okay, but I don't think you can do that if you know where mom lives.
That's correct.
Be
Yeah.
like Clarinda Academy, don't they just charge that state?
Yes, that's actually they can charge a contiguous state.
Okay.
So Colorado would not be one of our, so they'd basically have to eat it.
Oh, so maybe that's why they want the 9888.
They can't do that. Yeah, you're right. It's
Just-
probably what they're
Just
trying to
saying. Okay.
Yeah,
So the residency will still show up as where the kid is sleeping, and it's just
that's domicile.
that domicile.
But resident would still be the out-of-state
Yeah.
placement.
Still showing Wesley or Waverly.
Actually, if it goes down further, hang on, let me copy this too, because it's
Only gave me A&B.
children who are residents of another state. Let me copy this one,
Okay.
because it goes on to say, these are children served in an Iowa local district, but who are residents of another state. The financial responsibility for that child for the program provided by Iowa lies with another state or local district within that state. These children would not be counted nor generate funding in Iowa. I'm going to send this one to you too.
Okay, because I mean, that's going to be a problem for Fremont Mills too, because Fremont Mills is a foster care parent place for the brother that goes to Heartland, and then you're going to say that he can't collect money for him.
That's honestly, that is what, when I talked to Atlantic, that is what Atlantic told me. I would still investigate that as far as that they can't bill out for that state, but there's nothing we can do. I mean, they can't be coded 9888 if we know where the parent is.
And Pam, for this student, tell me, like, living in Waverly Shell Rock, who are they living with, and what's the circumstance?
I believe Kara is actually, I think there is a facility. Oh, well, she's living at Beloit. She's at the Beloit Center, and then she is going to Waverly Shell Rock. Now, the other problem is her brother is in foster care in Fremont Mills and going to Heartland. So he's going to be the same problem for Fremont Mills, because if mom's in Colorado, then if they can't charge Iowa, they can't count him.
What Atlantic said, I would be doing some further investigation, but if we know without a doubt where the mom is, if they know where the mom is, they cannot bill back to 9888 or 9889.
Okay.
That seems pretty clear, but it is confusing. So then your original student is in a residential placement, and mom is just living elsewhere.
Right.
It is confusing.
You run into that fact with Karen Shelter, you know, a bit? Like when they move on their own or move in with their boyfriend's family.
Yeah.
It gets confusing and messy.
The one's 18. She's okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right.
Does that help?
Sure. I'll send this on to Waverly.
Because it's the 2015
Okay.
count from John, federal information from John.
Okay.
You're sending it to the AEA, right?
I'll send it to, yes, whoever Waverly Shell Rock is with.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I'll also send it down to Fremont Mills, and they're going to kill me. So.
Well, I mean,
I'm only the messenger.
You don't make up the rules.
I know. I know.
They shouldn't kill you.
I know. But I get to be the messenger. They always kill the messenger. I don't know why.
well, we need to invest. That is just what Atlantic had told me. I guess I question if, according to what I just read from John Lee's, they should be able to bill that state, whether it's contiguous or not.
Well, doesn't Clarinda charge all those different states?
It's a state-operated program, so I'm not sure on that. I don't necessarily think that is the case, but I'm not sure.
Okay, I just know they have kids from all over the country, so.
Yeah.
Well, they're getting paid for sure, but then these are court-ordered situations,
Yes,
so
that's a different
yeah.
situation.
Well, and this may have, I don't know if it was court ordered or not, because we have no idea where, you know. And at the time, the first time they tried to find out where she was, Carrie actually talked to her, and she was living out of her car in between Fremont Mills and Malvern. So she since has moved on to the mountains of Colorado. So maybe she's found another boyfriend. I don't know. But she left the 2 kids wherever they were. 3 kids. So the other one is living in Malvern in another foster care. Poor kids. So, all right, I will forward it on to them. Thank you.
You betcha.
Okay, I didn't think they were right, but I didn't want to just say that.
Yeah, no, I would explain them that you have the sibling down there, and
Yeah.
that you want to make sure that it's right. But according to that guidelines from the Federal Information Bulletin of John Lee's, you can't if you know that the mom is living in Colorado.
Okay, that's what I thought when they put it in the same email.
Does John have a DHS worker though?
I assume he does because, well, he's in foster care. I think I
I would have somebody maybe contact John's DHS worker and see if really mom is found anywhere.
okay.
And if mom is found somewhere, then I would try to pinpoint where she's at. And if they're not really sure where she's at, then maybe that's a different story. But, and then you might be able to put that 9888. But
yeah. And then the little girl lives down in Malvern in foster care. I don't know if they'd have the same
is she
DHS worker. She was, but she's been out for like 6 months, so we're hoping that she stays out.
Yeah.
Once she got into foster care with this other family, she figured things out, so that was good.
Yeah.
So but that might be another source to find out where the mom is, if she keeps any track of the little one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's where that investigative part has to come into play. I mean, I know that there's not a whole lot of time right now to do that, but we probably need to so that we can get the count close to accurate.
Okay. I just didn't think I could do that just because they said so.
Yeah,
So.
No, I would not. There's so many rules surrounding that, and you've got proof now with John's information that I think I would ship that back and say, according to this from John's 2015 Federal Information Bulletin, there's no way if we know where mom is, we can put her as 9888. And you know what? As people get busy, they enter stuff and they don't totally, especially if it's not your kid, you don't tend to really fully think through it sometimes. And, that's probably what happened. And they'll be.
Well, I'm sure they just thought that way they could count him and they could get money for him. If they put Colorado and they can't bill Colorado, I can see that they'd want the 9888.
But again, that was done at Atlantic.
I mean, I'm just saying that's probably why they did it.
Well, and I don't know where they got their information at Atlantic. So I guess that's the first I'd ever heard about that contiguous states thing. So I guess I probably wouldn't say that. I mean, or tell them.
Does that mean that you can only charge states that your state touches? Or what does
that is what Atlantic said. Now, whether that's true or not, I know I had a kid from, I want to say Virginia or somewhere is where the mom is. But I think they still billed out for them. I don't think that's actually the first time I've heard of that. So
okay.
I don't think I would broadcast that, but I would.
Okay. I'll email him and find out.
Yep. I think that would work. And
okay.
The DHS worker, if need be, that you can talk to.
Yep. I will find out. Thank you.
You bet.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Pam.
Thank you.
We'll see you. Bye.
Bye-bye.